Before smartphones, before open-concept kitchens, homes had hidden corners and built-in secrets. Not high-tech, not flashy, but warm, clever, and full of charm. You didn't just live in these spaces, you lived around them. A telephone nook near the stairs, a milk door by the kitchen, a dumb waiter that made you feel like a hotel had snuck into your house. Some of these features faded with time. Others were designed out completely. But if you remember even a few of these, you're part of a generation that lived through something pretty special. Let's take a look back. There was a time when phones didn't sit in your pocket. They sat in one place, and the whole house revolved around them. And for a lot of homes, that meant heading straight to the telephone nook. It was a built-in spot, usually in the hallway or near the kitchen, just big enough for a rotary phone, a slim shelf for the phone book, and maybe a little stool. The best part? The cord. That coiled cord was like a lifeline, stretched across the hall, wrapped around your fingers, or pulled tight when you were trying to whisper secrets. These nooks weren't just convenient, they were the place for teenage drama, kitchen gossip, and family announcements. If you had siblings, you probably fought over it like it was your turn on stage. They started showing up in the 1920s and stuck around for decades, but once cordless phones came along, they started fading fast. Still, if you remember pacing in circles, dragging the cord as far as it could go, you're definitely part of the club. Before refrigerators were everywhere, homes had a cooler secret: the icebox pantry. It wasn't just a cold cabinet. It was a fully built-in cooling station, often with a small outside door where the iceman would drop off a fresh block. Inside, heavy insulation and a tin-lined compartment kept things like butter, milk, and leftovers from spoiling too fast. You didn't plug it in, you planned around it. Moms would chip ice by hand or slide in a metal tray for next-day use. Some pantries even had little shelves for fresh produce, cooled just by airflow from shaded walls. These pantries hit their peak in the 1920s and early 30s until electric fridges showed up, changing kitchens forever. But the next time you hear someone say icebox instead of fridge, now you know why. If you've ever stared at the top of your wall and wondered what that little wooden strip was, congrats, you found a picture rail. These were standard in homes built before drywall took over. Instead of hammering nails into delicate plaster walls, you hung art from hooks and wires on the rail. It kept the walls pristine and let you move things around without making a mess. Some rails matched the crown molding. Others ran along colorful wallpaper or painted hallways. And in some homes, you'd find entire picture galleries framed from those slim rails. They started fading by the 1950s, but in vintage homes, they're still there, sometimes hidden behind coats of paint, just waiting to be noticed. If you've got one in your house now, it's more than decoration. It's a clever little piece of history. A hole in the wall that made chores more fun? Yep, that was the laundry chute. Tucked behind a hallway door or hidden in a bathroom cabinet, it was basically a straight shot to the basement laundry area. Toss in your dirty socks or towels, and whoosh, they disappeared. Some kids dropped clothes, others dropped toys. And if you had siblings, there's a good chance one of you yelled into it like a walkie-talkie or tried to send a message down in a sock. Most were metal or wood-lined to keep things clean. A few even had spring-loaded doors that made a satisfying thump when they closed. They started fading out in the 70s, once main floor laundry rooms became the norm. But for anyone who grew up with one, that sound of clothes landing below is hard to forget. Before wrinkle-free shirts and wrinkle-free lives, homes had a secret weapon tucked into the wall, the built-in ironing board. It looked like a narrow cabinet, but open it up, out flipped a full-sized board ready to smooth out your collars and cuffs. Some even had little shelves inside for starch bottles, spare buttons, or sewing kits. They were usually placed near the kitchen or laundry area, making it easy to go from washing to pressing in one smooth move. And the best part? No setup or teardown. Just fold and go. These boards started disappearing in the 1970s as portable models took over, and people started caring a little less about perfectly pressed slacks. Still, if you ever yanked one open and nearly got bonked in the head, you know the thrill. High above the doors, sometimes barely noticeable, sat one of the smartest little features in any old house, the transom window. These horizontal windows let in light and air while keeping doors shut. Some didn't open. Others had a latch or chain you'd pull to crack them just enough for a breeze. They helped cool down homes before air conditioning became standard, and added a touch of style at the same time. Some were plain glass. Others had frosted designs or stained glass panels that caught the light just right. They started to vanish after the 1950s, once central air came along. But in old homes, you might still spot one above a bedroom door or hallway entry. If you ever got to open one with a long brass hook, you remember the feeling. If you're still watching, you're one of us. Drop a comment if any of these lived in your house, or if you're just wishing they still did. And don't go anywhere. We're just getting to the good stuff. The next one? It didn't just hide in plain sight. It moved everything from dinner plates to laundry without anyone lifting a finger. All right, let's check out how dumb waiters made life a whole lot easier. No, not a rude server. We're talking about the tiny elevator hidden inside the wall. The dumb waiter was a pulley-powered lift that moved food, laundry, or even firewood between floors. Usually installed between the kitchen and the dining room, or the basement and upstairs, it saved a whole lot of stairs. You'd open a little door, place your tray inside, pull the rope, and up it went. Or down. Quiet, clever, and oddly satisfying. Most were built into homes from the late 1800s through the 1940s. But by the 1970s, open layouts and main-floor living had taken over, and the dumb waiter became more of a curiosity than a convenience. Still, if you ever rode in one, even though you weren't supposed to, you're not alone. Right next to the front steps, just before you walked inside, you'd spot it. A little iron bracket sticking out of the concrete or brick. That was the boot scraper. It did exactly what it sounds like. Scraped off mud, snow, and whatever else you tracked home. Before paved roads and sidewalks, it was a must-have. Some looked like little fences. Others had ornate designs or family initials. They were tough, cast-iron fixtures, practically indestructible. They started disappearing in the 1940s when cars replaced carriages and yards got cleaner. But if you see one today, it's a reminder of just how dirty life used to be. And if you ever jammed your toe into one barefoot, you definitely remember. You didn't meet the milkman at the door. The door met the milkman. Milk doors were little double-sided cabinets built into the kitchen wall. One door opened from the outside, one from the inside. That way, the milkman could drop off bottles, and you could grab them without going out in your robe. They were insulated, simple, and surprisingly clever. Some even had slots for butter or eggs. A few had little notes inside. 2 bottles, please. These doors peaked in the 1930s and 40s, then faded fast once grocery stores and home fridges took over. But if you ever opened one and found fresh cream waiting, you know how good that felt. It wasn't just for butlers, but it did feel fancy. The butler's pantry was a small room between the kitchen and the dining room, a place for silver, china, and the fancy dishes that only came out during the holidays, and sometimes, if you were sneaky, a place to swipe a cookie before dinner. It had glass front cabinets, marble counters, and drawers lined with velvet. It was equal parts storage and status symbol. These pantries were common in homes from the 1880s to the 1940s, but open-concept kitchens slowly pushed them out. Too much space, not enough function. Still, if you ever helped your mom polish silver in one, that memory sticks. Before freezers and fridges, there was one place cold enough to store everything: the root cellar. Usually dug into a hill or under the house, it stayed cool and damp year-round, perfect for potatoes, onions, apples, and anything else that needed to last. You'd walk down creaky steps into the dark, and the air would shift, cool, earthy, almost still. There were shelves for jars, bins for vegetables, maybe a hook for hanging meats. Some even had sand-filled crates to keep things from spoiling. They started disappearing after week 2, once modern refrigeration became common. But if you ever had to run down and grab something for dinner, you probably came back with goosebumps. We've seen the hidden rooms, the secret doors, the clever little details, but when you put them all together, it's like stepping back inside a whole different world. Let's run through everything we found today and see just how many you remember. The telephone nook, where you stretched the cord as far as it would go. The icebox pantry, when refrigeration needed a whole wall to work. Transom windows, where airflow was controlled with just the pull of a rod. Milk doors, those secret pass-throughs for fresh deliveries. Dumb waiters, moving meals without ever touching a staircase. Picture rails, hanging your best memories without wrecking the plaster. Built-in ironing boards, ready to flip down and fix your best Sunday shirt. Root cellars, nature's fridge before the fridge even existed. Boot scrapers, scraping off the world before you came inside. And of course, butler's pantries, where family treasures stayed safe between meals. All of it gone from new homes today, but not from our memories. And honestly, these weren't just features, they were the backdrop to birthdays, late-night talks, family dinners, and a million tiny moments that made a house feel like home. You might not remember every detail, but walk into an old house today and you'll feel it. That feeling never fades. And the funny thing is, it's not just the features we miss. It's the way they shaped the little moments. Sneaking cookies from the pantry when no one was looking, listening in on kitchen gossip through the telephone nook, racing to see who could shove laundry down the chute first. It wasn't polished. It wasn't planned, but it was real, and it made every house feel like home. If even one of these brought back a smile or a memory you hadn't thought about in years, drop a comment and let us know which one you miss most. And if this walk down memory lane stirred something inside you, subscribe to remember this, where the past isn't just history, it's home.